Hello, this is a quick video about the Citadel Technical Imperial Primer, the new one that they released with the new paint range. I was having a little discussion in the comments with WarbossTae about this. He was doing a video review of it, and he wasn't having a lot of luck with it on the Finecast resin models. And I think this might be because he was watering it down. So I'm going to have a little experiment now. Because if you saw in one of my previous videos, you saw this little bomb squig here. This chap here was actually primed with Imperial Primer. He's a resin model from the Finecast Tank Busters kit, and I hand painted the primer onto him, and it was alright. Now I seem to remember that when I did this, I had to be careful not to have too much water on the brush, even as I took it straight from the pot of the primer, otherwise it was just flowing. But straight out of the pot with a fairly dry brush, it went on fairly well. So, without further ado, let's give it a shake. Right, and have a little look. So there's our pot of primer. I'm just going to use a standard Citadel starter brush from one of the paint kits. So let's try this straight from the pot. Just taking a bit on the brush. I tend to wipe it off on the edge there. And let's have a look. Let's start with his weapon there. So the trick is to just have a little bit on the brush, but have it fairly dry. So you'll have to keep topping your brush up. Keep it nice and thin. Don't use too much of it at any given time there. It might still take a couple of layers. Don't know if you can see that, but it's still fairly grey. But it's not separating, it's going on fairly well. I mean, it's never going to be a good substitute for spray priming with the Chaos Black spray or your preferred brand. It's going to be time consuming and hard to reach some of the details, whereas a spray would obviously get straight in there. But you can see that's coating it quite nicely. Sorry if I lose the focus. It's hard to watch this screen on the camera from this angle. And we just paint that on. Like I say, straight from the pot, wiping off the excess. So it's not quite a dry brush, but it is. You're not going to have like a massive thick layer of it on there. You're just going to keep on adding a little bit when your brush gets dry. A little bit more, and just it dries very quickly, so you can kind of go over the areas you've already primed as you do it. As WarbossTae noticed, it can be quite hard to see. Sometimes it does play tricks on you with how shiny it is. Sometimes you might think you haven't undercoated an area, and it'll be the light reflecting off the black. And sometimes it might be the other way around. You might think that you have coated it, but you haven't. You see there, it's straight out of the pot. It's going on nicely. So it does seem that your technique for doing the undercoating with this primer will vary depending on what you're actually priming. If you're using the plastic kits, then it seems that watering it down is a good solution, and obviously you won't run out of primer quite so quickly. And here we are, just slapping it on almost. Not thick again. By only having a small amount on your brush at any given time, you're just literally coating it with a very thin layer of black. It doesn't even need to be totally solid, really, as long as it's giving you something for the next layer of paint, your base coat, to latch onto, then you should do nice out of it. So I'll carry on priming this up as I'm doing here, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, here we are, about 10 minutes later. He's still wet, so I'm not going to touch him too much, but there he is. There's our finished tank buster, all primed up with the Imperial Primer. If there's any spots that aren't covered in primer at the moment, that's my fault for just missing them rather than the primer going anywhere or not going where I want it to. And yeah, it's come out, it's dark, it's black, it's a smooth coverage because I didn't just slap it all on, it's nice and thin. And yeah, it's still wet at the moment, but I might pick it up in a minute when he's dry, so you can see what he looks like then. And here's the tank buster just about dry. Well, he is dry actually. You can't see very well because it's getting quite late, but there he is. I've painted up one of his arms with Warg green as well, so you can kind of see how the detail is retained, if it focuses right. You can still see his little details nice and sharp. The backpack still really nice looking. Lots of little detail there. Let's see if we can see the face at all. Mine's the finger. It's disgusting and chopped up from cutting myself. So you can see there on his rocket pistol, the little grating on the side there, that's come out nice. And all the detail on his face. There's his teeth, his targeting sight. All the details have come out really nicely, I think. And there he is. So that's it. The consensus, as far as I can see, is that we need to use it straight from the pot when playing around with Finecast. Whee. Cool. Well, that's that. And war paints. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll update soon with those guys, which I am currently still working on. My first unit of Wood Elf Glade Riders. There's still a lot of work to go on them. They're nowhere near ready yet. But yeah, they'll be my next ones that I finish there. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.